jiggled and tottered as he squeezed his big body behind them. But now the dog was satisfied. Now he lay facing the wide open doorway. He was back. Twice he'd been taken away, twice now he'd come back. And if the men were to take him away 30 times, he'd come back 30 times. He wasn't dim-witted. He knew he wasn't wanted here. But every time he was taken away, he tried to come back. It wasn't a plan in a big dog's mind. It was a need, a desperation to have a home. He was going to have a home. It was that simple. All by herself sometime during the noon hour, the little red hen crossed the sunlit spaces of the barnyard beyond the wide doorway. And suddenly the dog's tail slapped the bushel basket a single hard slap. It boomed hollowly in the empty basket. It scared the dog. He forced his tail still, but he couldn't prevent the delighted wriggle and shivered through his body. Just seeing the little red hen made him feel friendly, warm, safe, almost as if he too belonged. And in a way, he belonged, for the little red hen belonged to him. Hadn't he guarded her last night against everything that came? He remembered it as proudly as he held himself absolutely still to keep himself from running to the little red hen. The little red hen was the one thing that had brought the dog back. The other thing was the sure knowledge that the man was good. Whatever the man did to him, for whatever reason, the man was kind and good. And knowing that, the dog knew a sure fact. The little red hen was his to guard and protect, and he was going to be the man's. And this was going to be his home. He hadn't known it earlier this morning when, after the long, confusing ride, the man had finally stopped the car at the side of the road, and he had said the familiar sounds and words again. "All right, poor old fellow, out you go. Please do it quick." The car had rattled away. The dog had stood at the side of the dark road with the memory in his ears of the hurried, sorrowful words of the man who did strange, unreasonable things, but who was good. And knowing that surely, the dog had immediately taken off after the loud rattling sound of the car. The man had really outwitted himself, not the dog. He had gone back by a roundabout way so as thoroughly to lose the dogs this time, but the dog had not tried to follow the car down the roads at all. He had simply crossed fields and followed the rattling sound of the car. Then, when the old car at last had gone into a drive leading to the enormous farm, the dog had not gone down the drive, but had waited in a deep roadside ditch before the farm. Daylight had come, then sunlight, and then, at last, the old car had come back down the drive and had turned up the road to home. The dog had waited, not giving himself away by running on behind the car down an empty road, but almost with the man, he had come home. Close by the barn, behind a clump of bushes, he had hid and waited. He'd been close enough to peer through the bushes and see the man with the little red hen in his rocking chair in the barnyard. And through him had gone a wriggle of warm delight. His delight in the little red hen and the man had made the dog almost incautious. It had drawn to him, to the farm, to be close to them, to belong to be home. Then, as the man had sat poring over the mail order catalog, the dog had stolen through the shadows along the barn wall and slipped away into the darkness of the clutter basement. He had done it in such a creeping caution that he had not disturbed or alerted a single hen in the barnyard. And now He was still in the barn, and it was noon. The little hen suddenly stepped from nowhere and hopped on her round knuckle bones on the doorstep of the wide doorway. The wriggle of delight shivered through the dog, but stopped as it started. For suddenly, in the sunlit doorway, there also stood the man. The dog flattened, sidling along the stretching out paws. He silently guarded and watched the two big feet planted in the doorway behind the little red hen. The noon hour was over. The man had started talking to the little hen. Well, I definitely made up my mind over a can of sundaes and slices of bread. Well, alright, 6 slices of bread to change this basement into a hen house. No more loafing, no more rattling, no more rubber feet and holidays. Whatever little spare time I get, I am going to use to clear this barn of all its junk. He took a step forward and saved it to the crowded